Let's take a look at what's going on in the markets today. We see that it's been a wild ride. Let's start off with the dollar, King Dollar right now, and it is coming in for an important retest this morning. You could see that we talked about before in this area, we talked about what we needed to see to look for any type of buy impulse to come. And it was not only the trend line break, in this case, it was also the horizontal. We cleared above it. That triggered the buy impulse. Since then, we came into the first area of resistance, a perfect touch. You see the line we have over here. By the way, just for those that are like, this is done on, I'm sorry, on linear, not on log, which is really weird. Anyone else, and I mean anyone else, if you showed them a chart using not the log for over 10 years, they would tell you that you can't do that. That's that's chart crime. You can't do that. Whatever. I'm doing it. And those same people also told you that there was nothing in the way to 120 on the DXY. Nevertheless, you could see over here that this trend line, this clone trend line, is exactly where we peaked in 2022. The prime to get that trend line, the prime line I used was, I don't know which one it was exactly, but it was one down here, right? And just kept cloning it all the way up to get that one. So these lines continue since 2008, since the great financial crisis and the new regime that we live under with this central bank liquidity cycles. It has remained very instrumental and key. And you can see that's exactly where we came into, that resistance that was there. So breakout into the first resistance, and then it just came all the way back for a retest. That yellow line, we have that yellow line still there because as long as we're above it, it's a very bullish repair that is taking place. The trend is down though, near term is down. One could argue that, well, we're in an uptrend. This is a pullback in an uptrend. And that's why we were so aware and watching any buy impulse to see if it catches speed. By the way, my projection for where that should move into would be into that area I'm highlighting up here. There's some heavier resistance. Not that it couldn't break above and then continue, but that's a big area to watch out for. So you could see that we came into the resistance, came down and tested that support. And thus far, it looks like it seems to be holding. Now, we're still in an area, again, buy impulse, right? Resistance still above us, but that buy repair is still in place. Getting below it, closing below it, that's just an exit of this trade. In my view, not yet would it be any type of sell impulse to play, only because you have this trend line that was resistance broken, could now be support, and you have the support under here. So until we break below, or price breaks below that level, I would not look to get aggressive again on the short side. And that changes perhaps further. For example, you might see, no, it's not available. You could see over there, it's just too aggressive right now for me. Maybe as time goes up and then we could be looking at a sell impulse later on. Let's keep looking. Let's look at the continued look at the 10-year, because we looked yesterday and we came right into that resistance, that confluence of resistance, this trend line, which we broke above, and then this horizontal trend line, and it held as resistance, and then since gapped down, and now it's coming back up. So nothing has changed. In order for us to look for a buy impulse taking place in this market, we are looking and still waiting for a break above 3.7, that same level. That could change later in the week, right? Right now, we're still into the resistance over here. We'll just give it room. It's got to prove itself above 3.7. That's our buy impulse on yields going higher, meaning bonds being sold. If we look at what's going on in the Nasdaq, so looking on the daily time frame, I could say, do we look at this? I get so confused sometimes, only because I look at some instruments on log and others on linear. For example, I've been looking at Bitcoin on the log lately, and that's only because of we have this massive trend line bear market in place, right? And inside of that, as you all know, the next thing we did, I'm going to come down to a lower time frame, was talk about that the channel within the channel. And you can see that we had a breakdown of this channel. Now, discretionary, I'm jumping around here, but I'm going to jump around and keep going. Discretionary, Lee, if you get a breakdown outside of that channel, I was saying, look, I would not take a short here. This would be an exit. And an exit if you went long over here, right? If you went long, this is a breakdown out of the channel, the exit, and the exit right there. There's the wick of the last move outside the channel. So keep holding, keep holding. That right there is the exit. So you could use the close if you're doing it. However you're doing it, it's discretionary. And then since you've seen a retest, breakdown, retest, and now it's seeing if it'll resume off or not, right? So that for me would be an exit of this trade. As I, again, when we talk about discretionary TA here, it's to keep us sharp. It's to get us sharper. It's to continue our education, our growth. I think it's exceptional TA that a lot of people use CTM 1.0 and it changed their whole financial future in the markets. It's just what we do mechanically, in my opinion, is way superior. Nevertheless, I don't think this is a place you sell because you have a breakdown of this channel. And the reason I don't think you sell, as we covered in the last few sessions, is because that this should be support, right? So you're looking at, let me just zoom out to a higher time frame. Breakout, it's a bullish repair. It's still a bullish repair until we break below this trend line. If we close below it, then that's invalidated. This does not invalidate that bullish repair, but if you're playing it smart, well, that's a sign of sellers actually trying to do something over here. We know from our CTM 2.0 positioning, those sellers don't yet have momentum, and that we would be obviously picking up shorts down in this area after price broke below, likely that trend line. But over here, it's just get neutral, wait for some type of repair to the upside, because now it's even more likely that we see a move down, and that move could be a couple of $1,000s into that trend line. It's still a bullish repair. And then the next thing that I like to do over here is come over and be looking at, well, when would that next buy impulse be coming into the market? And you could see it clearly over here. You got 1, 2, 3 touches. That's 2 touches, George. And the third one over there, whatever. So you would see that in order for that line to break, we would have had a false breakdown outside that channel. We would have reclaimed the channel and then the buy impulse. And then again, that's a really good place. I'm going to extend this out. That's a really good place if that happens, because your risk to reward, your reward is the top of the channel that you're looking to come up to, but your risk to reward is very favorable. And that's how you do it. Chia, we're almost done over here. We got a couple more things to check out. But why I was talking about log, I wanted to go over to the log. On the Nasdaq, we are having trouble on the daily. You could see that you got a lot of wick over here, right? So I see a wick over here. By the way, that's really good TA that we did last week as we broke upside this channel and then looked at the resistance, and the resistance above, it's exactly where price peaked out, right? And we did it ahead of time. And then since we've come back in, and you can see on the lower time frames that we've tested that trend line that we have over there, right? Once, twice, and the upper channel over here, finding resistance. Price comes off this morning. Price is rising. Futures are up 1% on the New York Open, a little bit of an extension, and then back down. So you can see on the daily time frame, the bulls and the bears here battling it out, and the sellers are trying, you can see from all these wicks, to pick up some momentum over here, right? The bulls are having trouble. Now, that's just one view. The other view is, All right, now I know it's supposed to be for sure on linear because my my yellow line is it lines up perfect. What that yellow line there is for us to know when we have a breakdown. Breaking down outside of that yellow line, which is this channel support from the bottom and then all the way up, this is a pretty big move, right? In this area here on the Nasdaq, a breakdown over there that opens up a potential retest. This would be the place from a risk reward level to go ahead and look for sell side. I think, and we'll watch if it happens, what our SQQQ is doing, but continue to watch this. But at the same time, with all that shared, you could see that right now, this is resistance and price continues to consolidate underneath that resistance, which for the bullish case is quite bullish, right? For those that are bullish, this is quite bullish, seeing after this massive move up. It's been a big move. Just let me go ahead and get a little bit of an idea of what occurred. 18% move in 1 month on the E-minis. Nasdaq over here is an enormous move, and all that price is doing is consolidating underneath it, which continues to be bullish. So the battle of the bulls and the bears do not yet have any reason to sell. Now, if you're fading the resistance over here, that means that you've been on the wrong side of the market ever since the breakout of the trend line. Right there. You've been on the wrong side. And that's a big move too, right? From the breakout above until where we are right now. That's a big move in some years, or the average year is somewhere probably around 7.5% of the Nasdaq. So in a 3-week period, it's a huge move. And anyone who's fading is fading against the trend. That's usually a loser's game. We don't do that. We're looking for sweet spots. This is consolidating. We got to clear 13,000 to be looking for any type of meaningful move up. And we're watching the breakdown over here. Anthony, what's going on? I'm really happy to see you as well. David, loved the attitude. Love it very much. So I wanted to take a look at what's going on with oil. Right? Oil, look at that business. Reclaiming, right? Trying for that breakdown again. I should be on the daily. Let me look on the daily here, right? Trying and wicking down over here this morning, coming back up. This is all noise for us, remember? This whole area keeps us neutral. We're waiting for a break above that yellow line in order to look for any meaningful back move up. It could happen. This is often when you see the pendant that I'm drawing here. When you see a breakdown that gets faded, I call it a fakie, that often leads to big moves to the upside. Now, there's still resistance right here and resistance right over here, and price could come into where it is now and still roll over, which is why we're giving it room. A close outside of this line, though, same analysis yesterday, that would, for me, be looking for continuation to the downside. Over here, we're not looking to get chopped around. Let's take a look at what's going on with gold, right? And so gold over here is setting up a couple of different things. First, this was the support line. We were looking for when this trend comes to an end. And just an observation. So the only people that are going to understand what I'm saying here right now are those that have been watching ever since here. We covered this buy impulse, and then this was the trend line we in. And then up here, I cloned this trend line and put this one up here. And I said, it's the lower trend line that for us will be the end of this move that started over here. At the same time, let's watch this upper one and just like as a learning experience. And for that learning experience, didn't get this right in real time, that would have been the superior exit. This is the first close below it. That would have been the better exit. Mental notes, keep them and take them, right? Now, we had a close below here, and this is an exit, right? From whenever this whole buy impulse started, whether you took the first one or if you took the retest of the first support. Over here is the final exit of that trade. And since then, you could see that price. You could see this was resistance, or is resistance below it. You could see prices come up, and that has acted as resistance thus far. And you can see we have not had a close yet above this trend line as well. So over here, this is setting up now, right? This was an exit. Is this setting up a sell? Are you in an uptrend or a downtrend? I think we're kind of sideways. So I think I would stand aside. For real, I would. That looks like sideways stuff to me. And then what about on silver? Right? Silver was a little different in so much as that this was, to us, the exit. And then since then, over here, it came above and closed above that resistance. How well that was drawn in, I don't know, y'all. We weren't paying attention to it. So I don't know, but I'm going to give it like a pass on this one because I'm not sure, like, I don't think this is a buy or anything like that. You know, because we look for here on commodities, breakout, retest, resumption for any type of entry. So even though you have a close below above, there's never any type of entry from my view. But you could call this a gray area. It doesn't really matter. And since then, you have seen no close above, and this continues to break. This is neutral to me as well. Both of these are stay on the sidelines right now. I don't know how negatively correlated Bitcoin is to gold. I think on a macro level, they are. But I've seen, and there are times when I've seen both gold and Bitcoin rising. I've seen both the dollar, Bitcoin, and gold all rising together. I don't know. I don't. Correlations are something that work. Why they have a close correlation, and other time those correlations break. But that, I don't know. That doesn't really affect my trading whatsoever. But Hypernova, as you wanted to look at Bitcoin Doge tomorrow, at the same time, we could also briefly view gold Bitcoin as well. Again, we have those solutions, but much like the FX, I just don't see where it fits in to what we're doing overall here together. All right, everyone. Super Thursday session. Here we got some insight. Nasdaq could still consolidate, but it doesn't look very strong. I mean, so look, it's also really good that we're having this battle take place over here between the bulls and the bears, and rightfully so. Why do I say that? I feel like there is. I feel like from my vantage point, from my feed on Twitter, that there's an enormously, perhaps rightfully so, but bearish segment. And I'm just going to say that very few technically seem to be on the right side, right? Because if you were bearish over here, right, that's good. And we were, right? We played the breakdown over here, and then we just never got the follow through to new yearly lows. And then we got neutral once we came back above, right? And then we stayed neutral until we got over here, and then we became bullish. Like, from my vantage point, that's the best way you could simply play it. You're playing it without bias. You're playing it purely technical, and you're staying on the right side. There are a lot of people who are just extraordinarily bearish, and on this huge 18% move, they've remained really bearish. Worse, the whole way up they were selling because there was no sell trigger. If you get now if you were, by the way, overly bearish this whole period, once at the right time you got on the sidelines here and you just stayed on the sidelines holding your bearish view and you tried to sell resistance up here, that's good. I like that. I mean, yes, that's good. That makes sense. Better if you wait for the technical breakdown, which for us would be the breakdown of the like the computer's listening to me. He went, yes, that's good. That's green. If you would get the breakdown over here, that to me is someone who's going to do better in the markets overall. But selling this resistance line, if they would have had the same awareness that we had, that, to put in the resistance line here and the confluence over here, and they're looking to sell it over here with a stop loss closing above it, that's also good. I think it's good. I don't know how good it is, but it's good. But I think that many kept that same posture the whole way down. Now there are many that are like we call them the perma bulls, and this whole way down they've remained just overly bullish. And then when price comes up, this bounce, they're like, oh, we went. It's just this is wrong in my opinion. In my opinion. So again, the way I see it over here, this is a very bullish repair that took place. We're into resistance. Thus far, the resistance is holding. There's a battle taking place right now between buyers and sellers, as it should in this area. And in my opinion, whoever wins this battle, bulls above, bears below. And in between, there's battling taking place. So, and protecting yourself versus the chop is a good way to go. So, we'll keep it going, but that is a breakdown below this. There's a lot of room over there.